Hello, I'm Donald Leggett, and welcome to the latest London South East CEO interview. I'm joined today by Brad George, CEO at Orosur, the South American gold explorer and developer who own the Anza Gold mine in Colombia. Welcome, Brad, and thank you for joining us from Perth in Western Australia today.
Oh, good morning. Welcome from sunny Perth.
Sunny Perth. Well, we're in windy, blowy, horrid London at the moment over here. Let me start by asking you, you recently became CEO at Orosur. How have things been so far?
Well, I must say it's been a wild ride. I joined the company, the non-executive director in the beginning of May, but on the understanding that as the previous CEO, Ignacio, was already moving on, so I'll step up to the role in July. Yeah, look, it's been, obviously the share price has done rather well. That's an understatement. And the company's transitioning from a previous project to a new project. So it's a very exciting time, and it's a very rare opportunity to be involved in a new project or an asset of this quality. It's quite exceptional.
Okay, if I could stop you there and say, give us an overview of Orosur and the Anza asset, including the scale of the opportunity for the gold mine at Anza. But it does seem like a cracking project from the outside.
Look, it does, and I think the results that have been published speak for themselves. I won't go into those, but when we have intersections of 40 meters at 14 grams, I think that largely says enough. Orosur is not a new company. It's been around for a long time, but it's, if you like, changing into a new phase of existence. Previously, it was an operating gold company. It operated the San Gregorio mine in Uruguay for 20 years, I guess, producing about 1.5 million ounces. But that mine naturally came to the end of its life in late 2018. And subsequently, there was a couple of years of uncertainty as that mine was being wound down, rehabilitated. There was financial uncertainty, so on and so forth. And the Anza project was in the portfolio at that time, but it never really was able to be given its due attention due to focus on Uruguay. But now that we've pivoted from Uruguay to Colombia, that project is finally being brought to the fore, and it's a rather long story, but
the short version.
Well, the short version is, there are very few projects in the world that, in all honesty, that I believe can match that. Now, I know I would say that, of course, but the fact that we have two of the world's 10 largest gold mining companies in joint venture to help us develop it is in itself testament to the potential. Geologically, the Anza project is a direct analogue of the Buritica deposit. Now, that's not a household name. It's a project in Western Colombia that's owned by Continental Gold, or was taken over beginning of this year by Zijin Mining. That's currently sitting at about 10, 11 million ounces of gold, very high grade. It's plus 10 grams a ton. It's an epithermal vein deposit. Anza is an exact analogue geologically. It's the same structure. It's the mid-Cacao belt, the same rocks, the same geology. It's the same widths. It's the same grade. What we don't have yet is the same tons. So we've overcome the early stage risk of exploration. Is there gold? Yes, there is gold. We know that a major event happened. So that's the positive stuff. The hard work now is just, how big is this thing? So it really is, quite an appealing project. The grade is there, the width is there. There is indication of the tons. But that's going to be the fun part for the next 12 months.
So it's proving the resource. That's the next steps.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can't guarantee the tons are there, but I think we've got everything in place to give us the largest chance. I mean,
You would be mightily surprised if it weren't, though, hey?
I would be very surprised. I think there is certainly a resource of some sort there. The question is how much. And I'm old. I look old. I've been around the traps far too long, and I've worked in gold projects on every continent. And it's a very rare opportunity to be given something this exciting with this much potential. To be able to walk up tomorrow and drill holes, knowing that we're going to get positive results, is going to be fun.
So very briefly, let me look backwards at San Gregorio. You mentioned that there were troubles and financial troubles, stuff. Has a line been drawn under all that? Is Uruguay completed?
Not completed, but getting close. Closing mines is never fun. Opening mines is much more enjoyable. It was closed in 2018. There is an orderly process of winding down commercially, an orderly process of rehabilitation environmentally. Those are all in train. It's fully funded off the balance sheet. We're not required to be funding that. There is cash there. And we have every expectation that by next year that will be largely wound down and we will have moved on.
Okay, and looking forwards, Newmont are your strategic partners and you're developing Anza with them. To what extent were you involved in the decision to bring in Agnico as operator and a 50-50 joint venture partner?
Well, oddly enough, Newmont didn't consult me on my opinion, being the world's largest gold miner, and they sort of know what they're doing. But we were certainly involved in the discussions for the last few months with background technical work, due diligence, and so on and so forth. We're absolutely thrilled, and Agnico is not second best. They're a superb gold company.
And for those who don't know who Agnico are, put them in context. Newmont, we know, are #1 in the world. Where does Agnico stand?
Newmont are #1 in the world, producing, I think, plus 7 million ounces a year. Agnico, I think, are 8 or 9 in the world, producing about 1.8 million ounces a year. So they're a very substantial company, and they have quite a large footprint in South America, and they have a large footprint in Colombia.
Great. So the ideal people, really.
Well, they are, and it's part of, I think, the strategy for the likes of Newmont. Being the largest in the world is a good thing. The bad thing is that large companies can only mine large deposits, and those are few and far between. So from the point of view of Newmont, they need to have as many fingers and as many pies as possible. And their deal with Agnico is very positive. Technically, they're both superb. And they leave themselves with a mechanism to come back in should the project prove to be of a Newmont scale.
You've simply got to prove the project to be large enough for Newmont.
Exactly, and I said that those are rare, but this project certainly has the potential. As I noted, Buritica to the north is 11 million ounces more or less, and still growing. This is the same kind of potential, same geology. Is it that size? I don't know. It could be. It remains to be seen.
To what extent does Newmont's involvement de-risk the Anza Gold project for Orosur? It sounds as though you've got a great project on your hands.
We do, and it's a great deal. It doesn't de-risk the project geologically because the rocks are the rocks. But what it does is that it de-risks Orosur's position with respect to the project. Obviously, having the combined expertise of two giant companies is a good thing. But what it does, to my mind, is it reduces the variables. One of the issues of junior companies are lots of moving parts. There's funding risks, there's political risks, there's exploration risk. That's largely stripped away. We have a free carry to 25%. We have an external funder, so we're not worried about funding, and we know exactly what will be spent and when it will be spent. So we're really left with only one variable, which is the size of this thing. So we've reduced the variables, we've reduced the risk, and I think that would make us a much easier company to value. And that obviously, in a market where we're seeing lots of junior companies, I think is a good thing.
And what comes next in terms of getting the project kick-started? And the obvious question, what news flow can we expect coming up?
Well, obviously, COVID has been and remains a bit of a challenge. South America has been hit pretty hard, and while it's coming off the peak, it's still got challenges. So we are funded, we've received our funding, we are recruiting, we're getting our camp going. The expectation is to be on the ground this month. Obviously, the caveat being that COVID remains a risk and we have to be conscious of the safety issues.
How much of a risk is COVID on that side and around getting in and out of Colombia?
It's more the travel is the issue.
So externally, it's tricky.
As in most countries, the COVID issue is most pronounced in the big cities. In the field, it's been there, but it's come and gone. It's less of a risk, but we have people coming in and we don't want to bring COVID with us. So we're quite conscious of that. But we have an expectation of being on the ground physically in the middle of this month, getting the camp going. And we are looking at getting in external geophysical crews, geochemical crews, and multiple drill rigs by early November. So then it's just a question of crack on. We'll have multiple rigs running. We would expect to be getting our first assay snap drilling probably in the new year, more or less. We have a small program planned of about 3,000 meters to begin, but the reality is, should that program provide the results we expect, it will just keep going. We'll bring in more rigs and they'll be there forever. So the news flow from that will simply be just grinding results. So very unsexy, but it's a good problem to have.
Don't worry, if the results are the results, it'll drive the share price nicely. Who's on the ground to manage the relationship with Newmont Agnico, or do you not do it on the ground? How does it work?
Well,
how will that relationship management work?
Yeah, well, normally I would be there, and because not that I'm useful, but I just like being in the bush. But I think my staff are probably quite clear that I'm not. They can actually get on with some proper work. We've got a very good team. We have a couple of very good geologists from Argentina, and we have an outstanding technical, commercial and legal team in Medellin. And they know what they're doing. And to be fair, I'm better off staying away. And I think as you find, as most people find, this remote communication has worked out far better than I'd thought. I'm awake most nights till midnight, which is the downside, but that's the price you pay. But we have a good team. I trust the team. They know what they're doing. Agnico have people in Medellin. They trust the team. So the best thing I can do is watch and guide and stay out of the way.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the interviews, but I have a really, really interesting one that I want to know about. Can I ask you about the changes to the board, the Orosur board? You have a new chair, Louis Castro. You've got a new CEO yourself, a new NED. So what's behind all that change of management? Why?
Well, any board should reflect the size of the company, what the company does. So we previously were a producer, so it was a bigger company, a bigger board with different skills. And we've transitioned now to being an explorer. And with the resignation and the moving on of Ignacio Salazar to a new job, that was a catalyst to restructure the board and the executive to a different skill set and a much smaller, leaner board. So we've got myself, I'm a geologist, so I'm technical. Louis has a financial background, has been CFO, and he speaks fluent Spanish, which is good. And Thomas Masney is a former audit background, so he can handle the financials. We have no office. We're all work from home, as you can see from my kid's bedroom. We do it remotely. We have probably reduced our overhead costs by roughly 40%, and that's going to keep going. So we've just brung the company back to a more appropriate size and a more appropriate skill set to what we are now, basically a junior explorer.
So you focused yourself on the task at hand.
Well, you do. I think it's very easy to get excited and to get by your own importance. And I'm a crusty old geo, so my view is just get the right people, the right job, get them focused, incentivize them, but avoid all the flippery and all of the fluff. I mean, we don't need that. When we travel the back of the plane. When we do this, we do it cheaply. We are very focused on what is necessary and forget the rest.
Music to the ears of investors, I think. Okay, gold is around $1,900 an ounce. What difference does a strong gold price make for you?
Well, we're no longer producers, of course, so it doesn't make an impact on the bottom line. But obviously, gold is sexy, and we have some, so that's obviously a good combination. The fact that we have these results is what we are now seeing in our increased attention, our focus, and our share price. So the share price is up, but more importantly, our liquidity has gone through the roof, and that is probably more important than the price, in that sense that it's the liquidity that either allows or prevents the larger investors from entering. They need to come in, they need to get out. So suddenly we are being seen as a new old company. The asset is seen as being high quality, and that's the key. And we're now getting a buoyant share price and high liquidity. So it's that combination of asset and market liquidity that I think is really going to be moving us into the top tier of junior explorers.
Okay, final question for a top tier junior explorer. It's a new management team. Do you have a new investment strategy?
The short answer is yes. The longer answer is I don't know yet. we do need to be very careful. You know, we've just come out of one asset. We're moving into a new asset. You know, give us a chance to bed it down before we go galloping off to new ventures. I mean, we'd like to. There is a school of thought that we should just sit back and let Agnico do all the work, which is makes some sense. But the fact remains, we as a company, you know, we're dual listed. That costs money, whether we do anything or whether we do something. And I think we have an opportunity once Anza is advancing further and we get more leverage, that we can use that to explore new projects. The caveat being right now, one, we can't travel to look at projects, so that's impossible. And two, gold projects are thin on the ground, and we have looked hard, and there is not a gold project in the world that's available for sale that comes within 1 million miles of Anza in terms of quality, or not one that we can afford. So anything we do is going to be, you know, second best. So we need to be very careful, I guess, in what we do, that we're not detracting attention from the main asset or destroying the value that Anza gives us. So the answer is yes, we are looking, but we're not in a rush.
Thank you very much for joining us today from Perth, Western Australia. Brad George, CEO of Orosur. Thank you for joining us today. For more interviews like this one, please do subscribe to the London Southeast YouTube channel. Just Google for it and you'll find us. Thank you for watching, and in these difficult COVID times, please, all of you, do stay safe. Thank you.